Welcome back. We're very happy to have you back with us. I think we're doing the 15th week. We might do the 16th week too because I'm going to be gone this week. So we might get two in succession here, or Amy can upload the other one next week. There you go. That's my little business. So continuing in the 15th week in Ordinary Time, and Amy's going to continue reading from Mark's Gospel.
Yes. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus summoned the 12 and began to send them out 2 by 2, and gave them authority over unclean spirits. He instructed them to take nothing for the journey but a walking stick, no food, no sack, no money in their belts. They were, however, to wear sandals, but not a second tunic. He said to them, "Wherever you enter a house, stay there until you leave. Whatever place does not welcome you or listen to you, leave there and shake the dust off your feet in testimony against them." So they went off and preached repentance. The 12 drove out many demons, and they anointed with oil many who were sick and cured them. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. So we have to consider this in a couple ways. And one is, and I don't think we usually think about it this way, but what Jesus is asking them to do, we should ask ourselves, would we be able to do? Would we be able to go, okay, just the two of you, no money, no food, just go. Now, the wonderful thing is he doesn't send us alone. He sends us in a community of two. And that's a great and very significant and very written about component of this reading. But when he sends them out really rather bare. And we ask ourselves, we would ask of the apostles, are we frightened? Are you frightened? Were you frightened when Jesus called us to that? And that is an important question. He didn't want us to rely on the normal trappings of everyday life, the domestic things. God has a way of helping us to get out of them. When we come to Mass, we get out of all of these domestic trappings. That's why it's so unfortunate when you come to Mass and you hear politically motivated homilies and things like that. Because now I'm being reminded of my U.S. citizenship, which is going to have me decide on who to vote for, rather than focused on the things of heaven. We used to collect things for the poor, and sometimes there would be a garbage bag in the front of church, and I said, no, now I'm remembering and thinking about how when I get home I have to take the trash out, because I'm seeing those things. What we're supposed to be doing when we're dealing with liturgy especially, is to remind people to the best of our abilities that we're being pitched out of this world for just a little while. There's this rest that comes to us. We're being sanctified by heaven because it touches earth on the altar, and then we receive communion and we go back into all of our domestic circles and places and charged up for that. If we get caught in those trappings, then it would be like Jesus saying, okay, take $15 each, do this, eat at this restaurant. No, it's not what he says. He says, build a community. Preach to people the good news, the saving message of victory that they already had known, and preach to them, tell them, and teach them about those things, and then everything else will fall into place. We fret and worry and agonize to some degree over knowledge and over power and money and these things that we really shouldn't do. Even here he says, if someone rejects you, just shake the dust off of your shoes and move on. Let it go. Let it go. How many of us can let it go? How many of us treated that way can say, well, I guess that's that, and move on? Do we not rather have some desire in us for revenge and things like that, even small ways, when people reject us? And that's something we can. If something happened in the world and we were forced into servitude against our will, and someone said, "Okay, now you guys go out and eat in the barn," would we complain that we have to eat in the barn, or would we be grateful for the food we have? That's kind of a strange analogy, maybe, but there's perspective there. Some people would respond to that in that way. Thank God for the food that I have, and other people would respond, How dare they do that to me? That's kind of where we're at. You see people respond that way, especially in some of our social media circles. You see people, say that. Every once in a while, someone will start a sentence. Who do those people think they are for doing this, 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 this? And I caught myself a few times many years ago, and anytime I start thinking that sentence in my head, I'd say, well, hold on. People can have feelings and thoughts and everything like that. But we get that in our sense, and sometimes can fall into entitlement and expectation. But Jesus takes that away from the disciples when he sends them out, and from us when he sends us out. Says, don't rely on the normal trappings of your regular life, those things you know that you can do. This is why traveling is oftentimes very healthy for people, is they get into a different culture, a different place, and they have to act like this. They have to go up to a stranger in broken Italian or Polish or whatever language you're speaking and figure it out and receive the help of others. And in that alone, I think we see the wisdom in this reading is friendships were going to be made this way. Whereas if I went and paid a restaurant or an inn to feed me, there's only a transaction that's made, not a life. That's just an arrangement that seems to be how the world works. So think about it in that way, and I think that's an important lesson in there. That's just the beginnings of perhaps of where I would go in preaching on this point, is to say God asks us to build the communities based on the need of others and the generosity of others. And we deal with that all the time. We don't say that enough, and maybe it hasn't been articulated enough. But we respond to God's mercy in a correlation to the people's generosity. Anybody who's been a pastor for longer than a couple years understands how vitally important those things are, because when we make mistakes, we go to confession, we go to God, Jesus Christ, in confession and prayer and say, I'm a foolish man, Lord, heal me and help me on my way. The people forgive us too. But also we're built up as a diocese and as a parish and as a church because people give us money, they give us time, they give us talent and treasure all the time, sharing with us those many gifts that we have come to hopefully not take for granted, but come to appreciate. So there you go. I think we'll leave it at that. Think about that for a while, and maybe draw into your prayer this idea of allowing you, when you go to Mass, to leave for a while. Heaven and earth have met there. And don't get angry about it, but maybe notice things that happen inside the church that are taking away from that. Maybe notice, I remember one time when I was, this is a funny example, but one time when I was in high school, I came in, and that was one of the years when the Buffalo Bills were in the Super Bowl, and someone had a Bills thing up at church when I was a kid, and the pastor came out, and unfortunately he took it down, it was actually something they were giving away as a gift for a fundraiser, and it didn't stay up during Mass, thank God. But I noticed it, and as much as I liked the Bills, it distracted me. And now I'm thinking about this game that everybody was anxious about, and we lost 4 times in a row. So there you go. But notice those things when they're like out of place. We've become so used to bringing even wonderful things like donation baskets. Like, it was a common practice for a long time here that people just would give food for for our food pantry, but they didn't put it in the thing. They left it in church, or they put it in the sanctuary, and it just doesn't belong there. It reminds me that I got to go to shopping. It reminds me of things that I'm not supposed to be reminded of. What I'm supposed to be thinking about when I come to church is the union of heaven and earth in Jesus Christ. And if I'm focused on that, and if I can encourage focus on that, then we come to some understanding that our power comes from the grace of God and not by our own, and that we have to have courage, like these disciples, to let those things go, so that we might really, really, really be proclaimers, not of our own version of world and church, but of the gospel of Jesus Christ that truly saves. That's everything to us. So may that be something that we proclaim with our whole life. And I will tell you that people are hungry for it. They are hungry for that message that Jesus Christ is Lord. They're not finding assurance in the political world or in people, other than maybe their close community and families and their church. But when we get out of that, we end up skewing our message in a way that wasn't meant to be, and it's completely ineffective when we do that. It's Jesus Christ who compels us, who draws us, who brings us into our true selves and gives us true life. So that is what we proclaim, as he asked his disciples to proclaim as he sent them out 2 by 2. So have a wonderful week, and thank you very much for joining us, and we'll have 16th week in just a few days.